So today we're going to cover conditional statements, actually just one of the conditional statements, which is if-else. I just want to put up here that there are two conditional statements, if-else and switch, and I'll cover switch in a different video because it'll make this video extremely long if I include it. Alright, so if-else. If-else is basically a construct in which helps you make decisions on what code is executed based on logic statements or conditions that you set. And those decisions are based on the content or the values of variables. Alright, so let's go ahead and start with a simple example. Let's start with, say, age. So var age, and we're going to head and make this an integer because it's just easier to work with. And let's say, let's make it 13, all right? So we're going to evaluate and see if the age is considered a teenager or not, all right? So if age is less than 18, then we'll print out, this isn't entirely accurate, but work with me, we'll make it more concise. You are a teenager. Else print that you are not a teenager. Okay, so I want to point a couple things out. So since it is under 18, they're considered a teenager, and that's correct, and I'll put it correctly. Then else print you are not a teenager. So say if it was above 18, say, oh, actually, let's do 20, because 19 is considered a teenager. That's the teen. Say if it is 20, then it should output you are not a teenager, which is correct. All right. So which brings me to my next thing. When I evaluated, I used this operator, and this is a comparison operator. This is less than. So there are actually 8 comparison operators. I've listed 6 of them because I want you to go out and see what the other 2 are. Just a hint, they're in regards to reference instances. So there you go, little hint. All right. So we have 6 out here right now, but this is less than, which is what I used up here. Then there's greater than, less than or equal to, so that will actually include the value that you are checking. Greater than or equal to as well, it also includes the value we're checking. So if I say less than or equal to, like 19, what I did before, it would, of course, output you are not a teenager, but if I use 19, it'll actually output the top one, which is correct, because it is equal, age is equal to 19. And then there's equal to, and so I'll make this clear, this is not the same as using one single equal sign, because one equal sign does not necessarily mean equal, it means assignment of a value. So like up here, we are assigning the value of 19 to the variable age. If we use it down here, we are saying that this value, the value in age, is equal to this condition. So if I say age is equal to 19, it will still output you're a teenager. But if I did 18, it will pop out and say you're not. So be careful when you use, or if you want to use equal sign, because if you don't, it'll pop out this awful error saying you are using an equal sign in a Boolean context. Did you mean yes? I meant the double equal sign. So just FYI, keep that in mind. And then we have not equal. Now, not equal is the opposite of equal. So if you don't want something to equal something, then use the exclamation point or the bang equal sign. And we'll see, so not equal 19, it will pop out, you are a teenager, right? Now say if the value was 19, it should pop out, you are not a teenager, right? Because it's not supposed to equal 19. So there you go, there's comparison operators. So again, my first example was not didn't cover, you know, the conditions that would, didn't cover all conditions of being, of ages where teenager applies, because we have 13, 14, 15, etc. So how we include that is we use logical operators. So I'm going to actually copy this to make it easier. I'll paste it down here. So let's make this more concise, right? So how we do that? We have logic operators. There are three. There's and, or not. And is the double ampersands, or is the double bars, and then not is exclamation point or bang. Okay, and I'll show you bang because it's pretty awesome when you use it, and it's different than how I'm going to use it in here. So you'll see it's pretty awesome. Okay, so let's define a teenager. So a teenager is between the ages of 13 and 19. So we already have the first part, which is 19. So let's include the second part. So we say and age is greater than or equal to 13. Okay? So now this covers the right ranges. So if we put age equals 15, it should say you are a teenager, which is true. See it? It's 10. And it should output you're not a teenager, because it's true. It's not between 19 and it's not between 13. So it outputs correctly. So there you go. That's a logical operator and. Now the difference between and or is that and both of these conditions, age 19 and age is less or equal to 19 and age is greater than or equal to 13, both of these conditions have to apply in order for this statement to output. If it doesn't apply, then it automatically goes to this. Or on the other hand, one of the conditions has to apply. If there's one condition that applies, then it outputs. So say, for example, I put a or statement here. It's actually going to output because 10 is less than or equal to 19. So you see here, 10 is less than or equal to 19. Same thing if I put 20 here. So this will not output because 20 is above 19, but this condition applies, age is greater than or equal to 13, because it is. 20 is greater than 13. So you have to keep that in mind. If one of the conditions matches with an or, it will output, it will be true. And again, if you want more stricter conditions, you use an and. Now, for example, if I wanted to include this, but I wanted to include tweens, right? We can use an or. And how we do that is we do order of operations. So this first set, which I've enclosed with parentheses, will evaluate first, right? If it's true, it will output. Now, I put an or, age is equal to 12, and this will still output, right? Right now it says it's not equal to, but say if I put 12 here, it should output you are a teenager, because it evaluated this first and said, okay, that's not true, but I have this over here which says it is true. So there you go. That's another thing I wanted to point out is you can add more conditions. You just have to be sure you are enclosing the conditions you want evaluated first, and then including the second part. So it's kind of like math. You know, you have to enclose those values you want to be evaluated together before it does any other calculations. So, okay. So let me show you not. So let's go ahead and create a variable, and let's say this says has has birthday today. Okay, so let's say someone has birthday today and it's true. Okay, so it's a Boolean value, and let's say we want it to, let's have the program say happy birthday. All right, so if has birthday today is not true, right? Because the not true, it will output, let's do print, you do not have a birthday today. Sorry. All right. Then we use else. And then we'll say print happy birthday to you. Sing to you. Okay, so this evaluated, it's not, so has birthday is not equal to false, it's actually equal to true. So it won't evaluate this first statement. It will evaluate the second one, which it actually does. So that's how you use a not. You can do the same thing by having it be equal to false, and it will still output. Okay, so say if this was false, this first one will output, which is correct. But instead of writing all that, you can just, you know, say, bang, it's not true, it's false. So it will do exactly the same thing. And it's just shorter, more concise, and to the point. So that is the logical operator not. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and move forward. Which brings me to, which is a nice segue, since we just used not, there is another way we can do a more concise version of if-else. And it's basically this format. A is the condition, B is the true expression of that condition, and C is the false expression. And I kind of wrote it out, so it's a little bit easier to read. And let's go ahead and use this happy birthday to you example. So we have the condition, which is has birthday today. Then we use question mark, and the true expression, or in this case, if the person doesn't have a birthday today, it will say, sorry, you don't have a birthday today. So let's go ahead and copy that, paste it there. But if they do have a birthday today, we want them to have a birthday song sung to them. And this should evaluate correctly. So you see here, it acts exactly like the first one. So again, if we make this true, it should sing happy birthday. Yes, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you. So there you go. That's a ternary conditional operator. I mean, it's really good if you have something really quick and simple you want to get done, and it works like a charm. So I just wanted to show you the concise way of doing an if-else statement. So the next thing we're going to do is nested conditional. So basically a nested conditional, you have one if-else statement, and then you have another one inside of it that further evaluates the condition or the values. All right, so let's do an example of this. So let's try something different. Let's do business size. So let's do var business size, and we'll do an integer because having half an employee doesn't make sense. Be kind of weird. All right, so we have business size. Then we do if business size is less than 20, we will print out this is a small business, right? Because it is. And then we'll do else this is not a small business. Okay, so the thing is there's small business and then there's actually micro business, which is less than, I believe, 6 or 7 people. So let's go ahead and further test this. So we do if business size is less than 7, then we want it to output this is a micro business. Okay, and then if it is greater than 7, but still it's still less than 20, we want to state that, yeah, it is a small business. So we put that outer bracket, and this should output for the small business, which it does. See, this is micro. This is a micro business down here, which is completely accurate. Let's say if it was 7 people, it should output this is a small business, which is absolutely correct. All right. Let's say if it was 20 people, this will output this is not a small business because it's up here our first condition does not include 20 people, so it has to be under 20, which is absolutely correct. So that is a nested conditional, which is really great if you want to further test the values and whatnot. But be careful. One thing I want to point out is if you go beyond 2 levels of if statements, nested conditionals, it can get pretty nasty pretty fast. And there's better ways to do these type of things than to just keep doing if inside the, inside a conditional. All right, so that brings me on to else if. Else if is an extension of if. Basically, you basically break up what would normally be like a nested conditional. It gives you a chance to evaluate conditionals in kind of like a stepwise fashion. So let's try it with the previous nested conditional example. So when you're thinking about else if with the logic, you want to make sure you're capturing the values in a top-down type of fashion, because the compiler really does it from top to bottom, like it steps through each else and else if. So let's go ahead and start with the micro business, because it is less than 20, and it just makes sense to evaluate at this level. So if business size is less than 7, then we want to output this is a micro business, and then we do else if, and then we do our condition. Business size is less than 20, and then we will output this is a small business. Then we'll do else, so you always have to have an ending else, so make sure you have that end else as well. Let's say it's not a small business. Okay, so as you see, it still outputs, I'm going to put like a little note here that this is an else if, so you can see the difference. So as you see, let's copy, let's paste this. It evaluates the same way as the top one. See, it says this is a small business, and down here it still says this is a small business, or this is not a small business. So, so you see the difference. This is much cleaner than the nested conditional. Now, I'm not saying don't use nested conditionals, because sometimes you do have to, and it makes sense to. But I also just wanted to show you else if. Yeah. And there will be examples that I'm sure I'm going to cover when we go further along. Alright, so the next thing I want to cover is guard else. Now guard else is pretty similar to if else, but to an extent. Guard else is definitely more strict. So guard else will basically not calculate, or will like jump out of a statement if it does not apply. Like it will kick you out of the party. You know what I mean? Or won't even let you in, period. So a good example of this is, say if we have a message where we want to let the user know that the business size is inaccurate. Like in our previous example, if the business was less than 7, we could have put 0 employees, which would not make a business at all in any sense. And I can show you an example of that error. I mean, the computer doesn't think it's an error because we didn't test for it, but if we put 0, it will say, this is a micro business, which does not apply. You know, we could do -2, -1, and it would still say this is a micro business. So let's give it a message that will tell us whether we've entered in a business size that does not apply at all. So I'm going to create a variable message string, and I'm going to give this message a value, but it's going to be based on whether the actual it'll be based on whether the employee number is correct, if it's above 0. All right, so we have var message, then we use guard, and then we say business size less than equal to 0, else we'll output message equals this. Actually, no, we have to do a return. We'll return the message, this is not a valid business size, because it isn't. Okay, so if it's less than or equal to 0, it will return this. Otherwise, it will return this. It is a valid business size. So either one of these is going to output, and then we can test to see what the message will output by printing it out. And see, there you go. It is a valid business size because, oh wait, no, it still isn't a valid business size. Alright, so I made a mistake, which is fine. Sometimes this happens. We just make an error mistake. Alright. Oh, I have the wrong logic. See, sometimes you do the wrong logic operator or the wrong comparison operator, and all things go all crazy. Alright, so basically, the guard is greater than or equal to 0, then it will output this is not a valid business size. because it isn't. So be careful again of your logic operators, or your comparison operators, I should say. And then if it is above 0, say if it's just one person, which is totally valid, what output this is a valid business size, because it is, because you have to have at least one employee to be a business. At least that's my assumption. Alright, so we have covered if-else statements, comparison operators, logical operators, ternary conditional operator, which is a more concise, compact form of if-else. We've covered nested conditionals, else if, and guard else statements, which is a very strict guard, bodyguard, bouncer type of if-else statements. Alright, so there you go. If you want to dig in more, we still have Switch. So see you then.